Hey folks, Jim and Leela here for Geeking Out episode 183.
Yay!
Woo! And I just want to remind everyone to stick around starting next week as we begin Marvelous March.
Yes!
That's right, next month, nothing but Marvel comics all month.
Jim is so excited, guys!
Kill me now! Now, what I might do is torture myself. I'm already torturing myself by reading superhero books.
Yeah.
So I might just torture myself a little more and grow a beard while I do it. Up to you guys. You tell me if you want me to do it, and I will, and be really scruffy by the end.
And just do pictures like Days on Marvel.
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
Like, huge
Yep,
beard.
yep.
Anyway,
Let's get into their comic reviews. We got 6 this week, so
yes.
I'll let you start.
Okay, so first up I've got Venom 13.3, Circle of 4, Part 4. Because I promised I would.
And you love to torture yourself.
Yes. So last issue, in her dying moments, Alejandra destroyed the magical talisman keeping Hell in Las Vegas in a deal with Blackheart to end her sins. So in this issue, Alejandra is reunited with her mother and returns to Mexico to be its protector. Flash awakens in the hospital to find the Venom symbiote has been psychically fused with his body, and now he's in full control. And Peter Parker asks him to take over as Spider-Man, and he does.
What?
General Ross is introduced to the world as the hero Red Hulk and leads the Hulks into an attack against MODOK, and X-23 is joined by Wolverine. They find Blackheart's secret Weapon X lab and kill him. Wait a minute, these guys are in hell. That didn't happen, right?
This does not make sense at all.
No. When their utopian endings are ripped away from them, the four realize that they're still in hell and they still have work to do, and Blackheart must be stopped, and they're forced to deal with Mephisto to escape.
Yes, this isn't cliche at all.
But I gotta say, I kind of liked it. I did. I mean, I saw the twist coming, because how could you not? But it's a step up from the last one, and it was really interesting to explore the characters' like deepest desires, like if they could have the world the way that they would want it. Apparently, you know, Flash wants to be Spider-Man. Okay.
Okay.
So, and then how they choose to fight afterwards, even though you know that they know they're in a bad situation, and they're going to have to trade something bad to the devil to try and escape hell. Like,
of course,
it's not going to be something you want to do. So I like the art for the most part on this one, although there's some really shockingly bad panels where there's not even faces. I don't even want to just discuss.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I understand that you're saying like there's distance. You know, they're further away from you, but that doesn't mean they literally have no face. Like, it's pretty bad. But other than that, I thought that this was a pretty good book, and this Circle of 4 thing might be okay in the end.
Alright, next up, we are talking about Witchblade Red Sonja #1. And in this one, Red Sonja pursues a cannibalistic monster into a mountain, while at the same time, in the future, Sarah Pazzini investigates the death of a priest, unaware that worlds are about to collide. Okay, so this isn't your typical crossover.
No.
There's 2 storylines happening at the same time at different points in time.
Okay.
So Sarah Pazzini is investigating the death of a priest. Well, Red Sonja is basically trying to stop an evil creature and whatnot from being created.
Okay.
And is teaming up with the Witchblade bearer of that time.
Okay.
So
there's the kind of crossover.
There's the kind of crossover, but it's not the time period Sarah Pazzini now. So,
okay.
But it's an interesting concept. The art's okay. It's not the greatest looking book in the world. It's a little off here and there, and the story is a bit contrived in places. And I never realized that Sarah Pazzini became a mother. When did that happen?
Yeah, let us know, fans.
I'm way behind in my Witchblade continuity, but I don't remember her ever becoming a mother.
Yeah.
So,
what's up?
What's up with that? Other than that, if you're a Witchblade fan, you're probably going to enjoy it. If you're a Red Sonja fan, this is probably not going to be something for you, because it really doesn't focus on that character as much as it probably should. So, if you're a fan of both these characters, then check it out. It's just not the greatest crossover slash cross-time crossover, as it were.
Okay, so next up in more continuing storylines, Deadpool number 51, Dead, Part
Woohoo!
2.
We're finally rid of Deadpool! Wait, no, we're not.
No, we're not.
No, of course not.
Okay, so last issue, Deadpool discovered the serum that would negate his healing factor and set an elaborated plan in motion to find out who made it and who has it. Because, you know, if he wanted to shuffle off this
Mortal plane.
That's it. If he wanted to do that, then he needs to, you know, somehow be able to negate his healing factor. So, in this issue, the X-Force fight Typhoid Mary in the Hand while tracking the serum, and Mary returns to Kingpin defeated, but Tombstone pays them an illuminating visit to them. The X-Force team then follows a new lead, which indicates Daken is also tracking the serum, and meanwhile Daken is close to discovering the location of Tombstone's lab. And Deadpool and Hydra Bob make a large dent in Kingpin's business in order to distract him and get the superheroes in town off track of what his plans might be. Okay. Really great art in this. I actually really like that part. And the story's pretty good, too. There's a lot that happens here, and it was actually very entertaining. I'm not a huge Deadpool reader, but I do like the occasional breaking the fourth wall thing. I do like the silliness.
It is getting a bit old.
It is getting a bit old, but, you know, this is the character that does it, you know, like there's no other character really in the Marvel Universe that does that. So, I mean, it's his shtick, whatever.
Yep.
But this is intriguing and eye-popping, has lots of, great visuals in it, and it again maintains the unique characters of all, or the character of all of them. It seems to make sense with how they're all interacting, so I like that at least. Again, I'm not so sure about the whole Deadpool wanting to off himself plotline, but you know, there it is. You know, some of you might be like, yes, let's kill this guy off.
Well,
but
I'll say this much, it's not going to be as bad as what I have to review next.
Yeah, so, you know, exactly, you might be wishing to be reading this one after the next one, but here you go.
Alright, so, as I was saying, if you're about to hit that flag button, do it now, because you don't want to suffer through the first issue of Nazi Zombies. And this one's from Joe White and Ben Dunn. Of course, Ben is my friend and boss, so yeah. I have to respect that. But we're
still going to do an impartial review.
Of course. But this one is a bit more serious tone than most of the other zombie-type parody stuff that AP's been doing a lot recently. And the storyline basically goes, a desperate Third Reich unleashes the fearsome Der Totenkorps, undead flesh-eating soldiers that cannot be stopped, and it is the Americans who unleash them upon an unsuspecting world.
Oh, well, that's weird.
Basically, Ben's story that's in the back here is a lead-in to the main story by Joe, and it's a really good character study piece, and very interesting to say the least, because, well, the Americans think they're saving a scientist, they accidentally unleash their Totenkorps.
Everything sounds better in German, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And if I'm pronouncing that wrong, forgive me. Yeah. My German heritage does not go back that far.
Yes.
But, yeah, this is a fun book. If you're a zombie fan, you're probably going to enjoy it. And if you're a World War II style fan, you're probably also going to enjoy it. But, of course, yeah, it's going to offend some people.
Yeah.
It just subject matter alone.
Yes.
But if you can look past that, you're going to have a fun adventure with this one. And I know I did, and even though I love and respect the guys who are working on this book, I was not looking forward to it. I was kind of going, what am I going to get into here?
Yes.
But it's an overall fun adventure. If you're a zombie fan, check it out at least once and then be the judge yourself.
Okay, so next up, this is like a free preview that you should find in your comic book stores this week. It's the Avengers vs. X-Men free program guide. So in this one, it's setting up the next big Marvel event, where the Avengers and the X-Men are going to be pitted against each other in the battle for the fate of the world, and it's going to be an epic run for 6 months of publishing. There'll be crossovers, there'll be a main series, you know, you've been there before with Marvel. And the Marvel Universe promises not to be the same afterwards. Now they've got great teams.
Yeah, that has not been said before.
Yeah, that line's not been said before. But hey, they've got
Agent
great people on it though. Yeah, but that informed the universe afterwards. That's kind of true. It's kind of true. But anyways, so we've got great people on this. The writers are Brian Michael Bendis, Jason Aaron, Ed Brubaker, Matt Fraction, and Jonathan Hickman. So like, come on, all those guys are awesome. And the artists are John Romita Jr., Olivier Coipel, and Adam Kubert. So again, all awesome.
Awesome. Yep.
So they're putting good talent behind this, so that part is good. Now they give you a little bit of a preview in here. So in the preview, it reveals that the Phoenix Force is headed back to Earth, and the target is now Hope. And the Avengers plan to intercept the Phoenix Force and destroy it, if possible, before it inhabits its host. And they plan to remove Hope from Utopia Island in the hopes of protecting her and keeping the Phoenix Force from merging with her. So that's the Avengers plan.
Now we have a Phoenix thing again.
Yes. But Scott and the Uncanny X-Men are formulating a different plan. Perhaps the Phoenix is, just an interesting way to move forward the events that are going on right now. Perhaps this is something that the X-Men need to resurrect mutant kind, and as long as she can be trained and controlled, this might not be a bad thing.
Yeah,
that's
really
gonna happen, right?
That worked the first time so well.
Exactly.
When Jean died.
Exactly. So the two sides are on a collision course with Hope and the Phoenix Force at the center. So this does look like an interesting event. There is going to be a launch party at participating stores on Tuesday, April 3rd at 8 p.m. So why do you want to go to a launch party? Well, first of all, your store has to pick whether they're an X-Men store or an Avengers store. And then they get...
what are we, by the way?
I'm not revealing.
Oh, come on.
Not revealing until the day of. It's a big surprise.
All right.
So fans will be able to receive special items that are exclusive to these parties and dependent on which side your store supports. There'll be stuff like mini posters, pins, variant covers, and all that kind of stuff. And you get to get the book the day before it's released if you go to the launch party. So we here are taking part in it.
So be here or be square.
So, be here on April 3rd, 8 p.m. if you want to get all that stuff early and jump on the early part of this
And
whole
no,
saga.
we will not ship it to you if you're overseas.
No, sorry. You have to come. But you could probably also find stores near you that are trying to do this as well. Marvel's really serious about pushing this thing, and they're giving retailers a lot of things to help push the event. So, ask if your store is doing it now, because if they aren't, then I'm not sure if they still can, but, it'd be good to know.
And last and certainly not least is we have Girls of Steampunk Winter Wardrobe. There's no review for this. This is just a pinup book.
Okay,
so,
just something nice to look at.
Just something nice to look at. There's some really nice art in here from Rod Espinoza, David Hutcherson, Brian Denham, Ben Dunn. Really good stuff. If you're a steampunk fan, you're going to really like it. It's in full color. It's simply gorgeous to look at. A lot of great referential material in this if you're a steampunk artist yourself. So, yeah, this one's really nice, and for the price of $3.99, you can't go wrong. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it might be a decent reference book to look at, something they've done, and, if you want to do something that way.
Precisely.
So I can't wait for Marvelous March. It's going to be awesome.
I'm so going to die.
I'm really excited. I think that for my half of it, might just read all Avengers and X-Men stuff to lead you into the Avengers versus X-Men.
Probably
Maybe.
a good plan.
We'll see. I don't know if I'll just read that, but I'll definitely try and bring you, something Avengers, X-Men every week.
And I will try and bring you everything that is not Avengers and X-Men and
there you go.
whatnot. I wonder if they still have any of those Jane Austen books. But seriously, let's get into a little tiny bit of news from the last week or two. Now, the big one that just came out is that Dynamite is being sued by the Burroughs estate for Warlord of Mars, Deja Thoris, and Lord of the Jungle.
Yeah, interesting.
Now, what happened here is basically they're being sued for trademark infringement and unfair competition for its titles Warlord of Mars and Lord of the Jungle. Basically, the Burroughs estate was asked by Dynamite, but permission was never given for these titles. Yet, they are public domain in the States.
But they did go through the process of trying to ask for permission, which is interesting.
But not internationally.
Oh, right.
Which this lawsuit pertains to.
Right, so I guess it would be Dynamite's viewpoint that they have the right to do it regardless. They were
Yeah.
just asking permission
Yeah.
to be nice about it,
Now,
I guess.
Technically, they do have the permission because in the U.S. it is public domain, yet it is owned and traded publicly
Yes.
internationally, like Europe, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So anytime that they would bring their product internationally,
Yeah,
they
they'd be in trouble.
cannot do it without permission,
Right.
which they broke.
Yeah.
So technically, they do. The Burroughs estate does have a case.
It'd be interesting to see.
And with the new movie coming out from Disney in the next couple weeks, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with this lawsuit, especially because Dynamite's been doing an okay job with these titles.
I mean, some of them
now,
have
the
been
thing
pretty good.
is, the Burroughs estate is especially ticked off about the risque / nude covers that Dynamite's been doing,
Right.
which really for these things do not need to be made.
No, they probably.
I mean, they are
don't. But if you
gorgeous
look back to the
pieces, but-
original source material, they weren't exactly heavily clothed. In
No,
that either.
I know they're not, but the thing
I
is,
see their point.
it's definitely
Yeah.
very risque when you have a family film coming out.
Yeah, but the fact that it was bought to be distributed by Disney is
Yeah.
not material to what they're doing.
No,
I
it's
mean,
not. But
Maybe there's probably a lot of fans out there who are prepared to hate that Disney film, but we'll
and yet
see.
it's being
We'll see.
but it's being directed by someone who loves the source material
Yes.
a lot.
Yes,
So
but it is going to be Disney-fied.
no, yeah, it's going to be
obviously,
Disney-fied,
so-
but it does look fun.
Yeah,
It does look fun.
It does look fun.
All right, so we'll go out off of that for now and go into the other lawsuit that's
Yeah,
going around.
Wow.
Out of like 4 or 5 that are going around right now,
Yeah.
about Tony Moore suing Kirkman about Walking Dead.
Yeah.
What's happening?
So he's claiming that he was.
Basically,
taken advantage of.
Moore is claiming that he's owed as much as half the proceeds related to the series, and Moore alleges he was duped into signing over his interest in the Walking Dead
Comic.
Yeah.
So basically saying something like Kirkman knew that he was going to sell this property to be made into a TV show and blah 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 blah
Yeah,
blah,
yeah.
and so nefariously got him to sell off his
Yeah.
interest so that he would get more of that money.
Pretty much, yeah.
Interesting.
To which Kirkman has replied that he did not do that, and that Moore has been being paid for the last few years.
Yeah, that
even
he's
with-
been getting royalties and
Yeah,
all that stuff
yeah.
anyway.
So I don't know what's going on there.
So
That's
again,
something
this
for
is
them to
probably all
discuss.
about the percentage,
Yeah.
the exact percentage.
And certainly for our last news piece, we did want to talk a bit about Gary Frederick's lawsuit with Ghost Rider and whatnot.
Yeah.
Now, the good thing is people are helping Gary out with his $17,000
What he
payment
owes
to Marvel.
for court fees, basically.
yeah,
right?
basically. But a lot of artists have come together and are helping him out, which is really nice. Now, the thing about this is that, according to rumors, Gary can't say that he's the creator of Ghost Rider. That's not true.
Yeah.
Not
okay.
true.
Yeah.
He can still claim and say it. It's just he can't sell merchandise, unless
Yeah.
he gets permission and stuff.
Right.
But legally, he's still the creator of Ghost Rider. There's
Yeah,
no one
you
that
can't
can
take that away.
You can't take that away from him. And I really appreciate that the comic community has come together to help this guy out. And
Absolutely.
it's always a good thing to see. And as for other artists,
This is a life lesson to you. If you
This is a
create
life lesson.
something,
Do not sell
let
it
it
off.
go.
Do not let it go. Trust me on that one. And some bit of sad news to cap
End the show,
it off. Now we all know about Al Rio passing away a couple weeks ago. Right now, go down below to my links section under our info. You'll find a set of links to eBay auctions to help Al Rio's family. So go on eBay, bid some of those art pieces up, help Al Rio's family out, because after losing their dad, it's a really hard time, and it would be very nice for you to help them out.
And you get something cool.
And you get something really cool that's, well, now collectible.
Yeah, absolutely.
We want to thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week.
For Marvelous March!